Lead Girl, the BWEL podcast is your dedicated platform for amplifying the voices of Black women in various roles, whether you're a teacher, school leader, higher educational professional, or educational consultant.
Join us as we honor the stories of remarkable Black women and share insights from our distinctive journeys in education and life.
Tune in as we explore the topics that resonate with us as women, as members of the Black community, and champions in education.
So let's dive in together, show up for ourselves, and serve up joy as the leaders our school communities truly deserve.
Welcome to Lead Girl, the BWEL podcast, where we amplify the voices of Black women in educational leadership.
We are your hosts, Trelane
and Jocelyn.
Our topic today focuses on getting better at being you, navigating self-care and wellness in the new year. How are you, Jocelyn?
Oh, it's the new year, and I am excited and looking forward to all the great things that are going to happen.
Agreed. Well, I'm excited to talk about this topic because it is so incredibly important, and it is something that we've talked about a lot, and
yes.
It's a constant work in progress.
Constant work in progress. Yes.
Yeah. And so, we're coming into this conversation as learners and practitioners of self-care and wellness practices, not as experts, but something that we know is important and that we know we'd have to continue to work on.
I like the way you put that. Yes.
So, just thinking about this past year, 2023, what are some things that you can say were successes for you? Some things that might have been difficult for you during this last calendar year?
So many things have happened this past year that I feel like it overflows to feel like more than a year, but successes. Well, I successfully completed a new year in a new position in a new city.
Yes, you did. You did.
And a new move with children and all things. So I made it through that year successfully. So I'm going to count that as a win for me. But I had some great opportunities actually this past year. Like I kicked off the year with, transitioning my son from one college to the next. And then right after that, we had the Super Bowl Coding for the Culture event in Phoenix. And so that was super exciting to work with students and partner with J. Reed and D Foundation. So that was like one of my highlights for the year. But yes, great things have happened. A lot of great events, projects are in the making, building relationships, learning and meeting new people in a new city. And so I've done a lot this past year. How about yourself?
I mean, I'm just in awe of all that you have done in light of so many different things that, could have made it more difficult, right? Yeah, I mean, I haven't really had anything, I don't think that's as grandiose as that. One thing that I did do was amazing. I was able to co-present at the Castle conference, the SEL Exchange Conference in Atlanta. That was a fantastic experience, and just being able to network with people and to kind of really lean into SEL. Was really wonderful. But I count, getting my school off to a really good start this year, that we're just working hard to maintain, because that is a primary focus, obviously, as a principal. So, and just dealing with the day-to-day stuff and trying to find those small successes whenever we can.
Oh, for sure. This is getting better at being you. So we are getting better at being us. And so, let's dive in and talk about reflecting on some of the challenges and the successes of this year. So, like, undoubtedly, this past year has been like a roller coaster for sure. And so personally, I face, and I know many of others and those who are listening have their own stories to tell, but whether it was like adapting to like this new normal, navigating uncircumstances or uncertainties, or overcoming personal hurdles, we've all had these different struggles, but just reflecting on these challenges is not about really dwelling on the negative, I guess you could
Mm,
say, but really kind of acknowledging the strength that it took to kind of face them. And then in my case, like, you know, my son is autistic, and so I moved cities to support him in going to college. But we
mm,
go back and forth from my home city to here, and so we're always on the go. And so it's really
mhm.
been being challenging to do all the things that I was doing before we moved, to kind of keep that afloat. And so that's been really challenging for me. And so, like, you know, in 2024, I'm like, yes, I'm back on it. Back to, you know, still being a mom, but still supporting. But it's challenging. But you
Right.
know, right, it has a silver lining, right? So I take the opportunity, learn from the adversity, and kind of capitalize it for an area of growth and managing my time.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely. I think that's amazing. One of the big things that happened to me this year was I lost another family member right at the beginning of the February break. So up here in the north, we have a February break as well as an April break in schools. And last June I had lost my grandmother, and then this February I lost my cousin. Who was her niece. So they were
I'm
both up
sorry.
in age. And so, losing those sort of the matriarchs of my family within, a year and a half period of time, that's really, really devastating, right? So there's a whole new normal that I have been working really hard to establish. Um, so that's just been hard not only for me, but of course also just trying to navigate my children's grief as well, and making sure that they are okay and that they have the support that they need. So trying to do that, be a school leader, uh, that was hard, and trying to figure out how to take care of me during all of that was very, very challenging. Um, but as I think back on it, I would say that having learned different practices and different things to help me to regulate myself, my thoughts, emotions, feelings, etc. Calling upon those things that I've learned in the past, I think, has been um, really great to watch within myself. So if I just sort of reflect on that, um, and that I can see that that's growth for me.
Right.
Um, Not, in the past, I just would have kind of, shut down or, just been like, I can't take it, right? But knowing that I have actual strategies to put in place, I would consider that as some significant growth.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. And one of those things that I have that I really love is affirmations. And, I'm still trying to get them into my regular practice, positive affirmations and mantras, in addition to prayers, if that's something that, folks feel is helpful for them. But I really do think that they have an opportunity to really reshape and to shape your mindset, and to think about who you are and how you come into certain spaces and into different situations. And people might say they're kind of cheeky, saying, I am enough, and I am beautiful, and I am confident, or whatever. But really
I'm
and truly,
strong.
yeah, I'm strong. And those things are really actually important to be able to articulate out loud. And especially as Black women, we don't always hear it very much. And so we have to kind of give it to ourselves, I think. I don't know if that's a part of your practice or something that you have tried or are thinking about trying.
You know, I mean, somewhat, I don't always do like just deliberate affirmation. Sometimes I have to remind myself, and I have things like in my office that say "make it happen" or "what you focus on, will happen." But I also like to listen to other people, to kind of help inspire or find a quote. My newest person, thank you, Coach Prime. I believe, yes,
Mhm.
I believe, and you look good, you feel good, and like I started following him and just kind of was thinking some of the things that. he says it really speaks to me and really kind of gets me amped up in the morning. So I wish I could have I'll put my prime glasses on our next episode. But it's just even having those glasses though, just it
Mm,
kind of helps me think about some of his things that he says. I know it's something small, but just thinking on like how we see ourselves and how we position ourselves and what we worry about others feel about us,
mhm, mhm.
is very impactful. And so like for me, those are things that work for me personally.
Yeah, yeah.
But I think for anyone, like the first step is really setting realistic intentions to kind of define what your values and what your priorities are and what aspects of your well-being are most important to you, whether
Mhm.
it's, mental, physical, fitness, relationships, whatever that may be, work-life balance. And so just really kind of aligning those to your core values to like create this roadmap that really resonates with your authentic self.
Mhm, mhm, mhm. Yeah, and I think, I don't know about this Coach Prime, you're gonna tell me about more about that later on.
What? Yes, ma'am. Yes.
But, when I think about intentions, oftentimes the beginning of the year, people say, "Oh, well, I have a resolution, I'm gonna set resolutions," and I stopped doing that a long time ago, because I would get so disappointed with myself. Just like the typical, okay, I'm going to go to the gym and I'm going to go 5 days a week and, get
Right,
healthy or
right.
whatever. And it's like, by the end of like day 15, you're like, I'm all set. And I don't want to be that way. I really started to understand the value of, implementing practices that are sustainable. And not that it's perfect all the time, right? But having an intention and saying, well, my intention is to, take at least 3 walks per week, right? So it's a goal, it's something that you're saying, and it's actually doable, right? And then there's this whole SMART goals thing, and sort of thinking about, is it realistic? Is it attainable? Can you measure it, right? I started doing more of those kinds of things, and then seeing more success and more buy-in of myself, even to say, looking at my calendar, have I scheduled my walks for this week? Right? And trying to make those appointments with myself so that I can
Ooh,
actually move
yes.
move forward. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Making appointments with yourself. That
Mhm,
was very,
mhm.
very powerful. Something I definitely need to continue to work and add into my own calendar, as I
Yeah,
make time for everything else, but I do not
yeah,
schedule time
yeah.
for myself. But yeah.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I was thinking, as we were thinking about and preparing for this, I was thinking about how how much we do for everybody else. And then, I think I was reading somewhere, we sometimes give the people that are most important to us our leftovers. And
Mm,
that's not fair, and it's not that it's always, and you said work-life balance, and I struggle with that word a lot, because I
yeah.
don't really feel like balance is real and exists.
Hmm.
I feel like we have to give the different aspects of our lives the time and attention that it needs in that moment,
Hmm.
and then we can move over to the next thing and give that thing the time and attention in that moment. It doesn't mean that other piece is not important. It just means that the priorities are going to shift and ebb and flow, and we have to be willing to do that, as we go through our days.
I definitely struggle. I am on the struggle bus with because I mean, I always look around. I'm trying to find. I guess some of the things that's challenging for me is that I have these aspirations and all these different things that I do, and I'm trying to do it. And I'm still a single parent, and doing it all, and just trying to figure out like who else is doing this? Like, what are they going through? How are they trying to figure this out? And it, it just becomes overwhelming. And sometimes I feel like I'm trapped, and trying to like they have the saying, better, you do better. Of course, I know better, but to do better is always hard. And I feel like I'm like even trying to work out. Like I show you where I moved to in Austin now. I live in this complex, and the gym is right next door. No excuse. Pass by it literally every day. But it's like trying to find those moments because I have this to do, I have this to do, I have to be here, I have this meeting, I have this. Daughter has gymnastics, and it's just really trying to, and that's something I'm working on. So I like the what you shared about making and planning time for yourself in your calendar, and that may be something I need to do and just like really force myself into doing, or just like taking a small strides. And if I don't do it every day, maybe start with a small intentional goal, maybe once a week, and then kind of grow it.
That's exactly where I was going to, is that the small chunks of time, right?
Right.
Even on my Google Calendar, I have, and I said 2024, I'm definitely going to do better with this. I have on my calendar journal. It just says
Mm.
journal, and it's a recurring event, 7 days a week. Now, my intention, of course, is to write every day.
Mm-hmm.
But my goal for me right now for the month of January is to write at least once a week. So that reminder is staying there because I want to continue to be conscious and rethinking about, okay, I know I need to journal. I know that it benefits me to journal. So if I don't do it on Tuesday and I don't do it until Saturday, but I did it for that one time a week. Do you know what I mean? And so I gotta celebrate that moment and then up my goals as I continue to get it more into my natural flow of things. Same thing with exercise, making that time and being very specific on your calendar so you can see it, I think is really, really helpful.
Yeah, well, creating realistic and achievable intentions is an ongoing process. And what's crazy is
Hmm.
that we put all these different initiatives in our work and working in education in our field. It's kind of like the same principle in a sort that you adopt a new initiative, and you tell teachers just go with it, trust the process, it'll be there. But it's like then we take it back to our personal lives, like trust the process. It starts to slack a little bit, and so it's
Hmm.
like, man, I'm doing all these great initiatives here, and I believe in these things, and I'm making it happen in this space. But I need to come back and bring it, and now apply that same kind of theoretical component to my own reality, and do the same for myself. Trust the process.
So it's really important for us to incorporate self-care into our daily routines. And so that part of that means putting it into our calendars and our schedules. Can, as leaders and as women, as moms, um, we have a lot to do. We always have a lot to
Yes,
do.
always.
And so we have to be intentional about our routines and our rituals that we are trying to do and implement in order to maintain self-care. But one thing that I used to think, this might shock you, but I used to think that, okay, I'm doing self-care. I go get my nails done. I go get my hair done every 2 weeks. I might throw in a pedicure, once every 2 months, 3 months. And I read something one day that said, getting your hair and your nails done, even your toes, that's not self-care. It's self-maintenance. And I was like, wait, what?
Yes,
But
I feel
the
that.
way she
Yes.
yeah, then the way that the author had described it was, that self-care are things that really speak to your inner self and your spirit mentally, physically, and some of those things are maintenance as well. But really the things that can change the way you think, can change the way that you enter a space, then change the way that you approach the work that you're doing. And I said, oh, that's hard, but it's so important and so necessary. What do you think about that?
I mean, I agree. It may feel good, but the amount of money it costs to go out and get all that done
Oh, that's another topic.
starts to add that stress back. Like, oh my, just to get your nails done, it costs. But no, no, I definitely I feel that, and like we were just talking about being intentional and what helps support you in being the best version of yourself. And so sometimes that may make you feel great for the moment, um, but for me, not necessarily. I need to have something a little more. Some mine is time. I think.
Mm,
I have so little of it, and one of my things I'm still working on is being like a perfectionist. I want everything to be perfect when I have things going on, and letting go. And so for me, my self care has slowly shifted into letting things be
mm,
and being
mhm.
okay with it.
Yeah, so I mean, so that's really a lot of that mental self-care, right?
Yeah.
And just making sure that we're mentally taking care of ourselves and emotionally. And that's some stuff that we have to pay attention to. The stigma around mental health has always been there, particularly in the Black community.
Hmm.
But it's definitely breaking down. It's definitely breaking down. And the more that we pay attention to how we are feeling mentally and how we can regulate ourselves, using strategies and tools to stay in places mentally and emotionally that are going to serve us, I think is really important for us to pay attention to. And we have to get support. If you need therapy, you need to go get therapy.
Right.
You need to talk to a counselor, talk to a counselor. And your girlfriends might be great and they'll be awesome. But sometimes it's just not quite enough. And I think that, and we also can't hold them accountable for being, our therapists and our
Right. Right.
counselors. That's not their role in our lives.
Right. Yeah. There's definitely, misconceptions and stereotypes that can really create barriers for seeking help. And this is another area, of course, there's a lot of areas of growth for me, but this is another area that I myself want to like make time for.
Mm,
But seeking support for mental health concerns really should be met with the same empathy as encouragement, as asking help for physical ailments. And so, I
mhm,
think, I don't know, I don't want to say that COVID helped with shifting, making this
mm,
okay to talk about a little bit more than it was before,
mhm,
because of so many. I think there were so many realities that came into play during that time. But even now, I still think it's still not as easy to talk about. I think people talk about it as if it's a norm, but like when you're in the midst of the work, especially within your career, and you're
mhm,
saying, yes, self care and mental health is really important, but then it's like you still have all these things that you're responsible for, especially in a leadership role. So it's like trying
mhm,
to balance that out, and like
mhm,
when do you pick and choose or say this is a point, this it's not black and white anymore, there's this gray area I
mhm,
have to then kind of shift through and figure that out.
mhm,
And so,
mhm,
yeah, I definitely think prioritizing mental health is a revolutionary act of self-love. And so I don't think I've been the best at doing it, but I'm definitely been working toward being better at it. But
mhm,
I don't know how that portrays when I'm with others. I don't know that I show that to others. I think internally it's something I'm working on, but I don't
mhm.
really say it loud or practice um
Yeah.
prioritizing mental health, and I'm proud.
Yeah. Well, I think that the it's working on the practice. It's
Right.
working on what do I need in order to be my best self, right? To give what I want to project out there. And so it's not necessarily being, the cheerleader for it all the time,
Right.
but I think that it is sort of paying attention. It's taking note of when you really feel depleted or when a situation has come to you that, you know, you weren't expecting and it threw you for a loop, and how did you respond to that in that moment, right? Did you fall apart in front of a supervisor, right?
Right.
um did you lash out, right? So taking care of our mental and emotional health is around making sure that we present ourselves in the ways that we want to, and that's why it also needs to be something that's constant and that we're actively engaging in, and ways that are really healthy for us, and just like exercise and nutrition and food, so all of those things that make us up. Again, it's not a perfect science, but I just started walking back again in March, and I just started with walking. And I said, if I can just walk, a couple times a week, keep it going. And then I started going to the gym. I started going, on Mondays and Wednesdays. I have my classes. So those days I don't typically walk, but, I might make sure that I walk around the building, a lot. And because I can get some decent steps in my building, so finding those little moments when you can, insert those moments of self-care for you throughout your day is also really important.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. Um, engaging in regular physical activity releases those endorphins,
Mhm.
those
Mhm.
feel good neurotransmitters that can really be natural mood lifters for
Yeah.
you. And I definitely do feel good after the fact. It's just like getting started.
Getting started. I know. I trust me. I know. I know. That's why this is such a perfect time to be talking about this because we're at the beginning of a year and we
Yes.
can really kind of make those shifts right now and feel like, we actually can make some headway. Um, and we one thing and that we also need to remember around self-care, I think, is that yes, we're working on ourselves, but we can also do that in the context of others, in the
Hmm.
context of community, a community of sisters, a community of sisters and
Yes.
brothers, a community, right? And so, what that community looks like is completely up to us as well. There are no rules about
Mm.
it. But I love going to exercise classes because the people around me, whether I know them or not, are there for the same reason and want to get the same thing out of it,
Right.
right? So, I don't what does community look like for you? And, like, who can you draw upon to help support you with some of these things that, that are self-care related that you wanna kind of, add to your days?
Yeah, well, the foundation of any positive support network lies in shared values and common goals. So, whether it's personal, professional development, connecting with individuals who kind of align with your values, and to help create like strong and cohesive networks, I think authenticity is like a heartbeat for some of those connections. And so finding those positive networks to engage in are really important. And of course, BWEL is one of those
Mhm,
organizations for sure. Just
mhm.
look at us,
Yes.
I found a sister in another state,
Yep.
wa thousands of miles away. Who would have known? And
Yes,
we share
Bostonian
so
here. Woo-hoo.
yes, yeah, Houston, Texas, H Town. But and we've never met in person. That's what the
I
crazy part is.
know, it
And
is.
I mean, it's been a couple years now, I guess. But that's just you find authentic sisterhood. I Who would have thought you would be able to find someone you've never met in person, have a connection with them, be able to share and um, experiences and kind of reflect and just get feedback from
Mm,
like having that network is definitely important. And I think BWEL is like one of those standout places that really gives like a sense of community and sisterhood, and helps us with understanding like experiences and celebrating our achievements. And
mhm,
I'm in a new space in my work now where like when I was in Houston, it was very diverse in the work field, but I find myself that I'm the only African American female in the room most
mhm,
times. And I work with great people. Don't get me wrong. Like
mhm.
everyone I work with, they're very loving, kind. It's been great, but it's still that feeling of belongingness. Sometimes
Yeah.
is lingering still there, and
Mhm,
sometimes I'm wondering. And I don't know. I hope I don't project that to the people I work with, but it's still that feeling here. And I know there's always a difference in culturally, but being a part of a network like Be Well does help support close that void and that gap for me because I'm
yeah.
in this space all day. I'm in a new
Mhm,
city where the African American population is very small as well,
mm,
and so
mhm.
we're not represented everywhere. But I mean, there are people here, but like I didn't realize until I made that move how big of a difference it was for me. I was so
Mm,
used to, just having a little bit more diversity of at least seeing people who look like me in different places where I rarely see that. And so, being in the organization like this has definitely been a standout um, benefit that it kind of helps support me personally, and a space where I can connect, share, uplift, be understood.
mhm. Certainly, certainly. I would 1000% echo everything you said, and I live in Boston. I'm born and raised in Boston. My foundation is here, and people say, "Oh, this the Black population in Boston, is very small." And it is small, but it is not tiny. We are here, but then when we look at education, and Black women in particular, we're here, but we are pretty spread out, is what I would say.
Mhm.
Definitely that only one, the only one in the room, the only one in the district in your role or something, like I can put my hand up for a lot of those categories, right? But and the same thing, work with amazing, amazing people. Um, but sometimes there are those moments where you're just like, do they really get it? Do they really understand what I'm thinking, what I could be feeling in this moment,
Mhm.
and being able to text somebody and be well and be like, okay, this is the situation that happened. I need you to help me navigate how to walk through this one because I'm not really sure what to do.
Some of my key takeaways from this episode is one for sure the calendar. I need to put myself on my own calendar to
Hmm.
have time for things, even if it's something very small, and just implement it and start small and be continuous, and continue to build upon that. Um, but also just, knowing that I'm not the only one that feels the way that I do sometimes,
Hmm.
and not feeling like I'm alone in this and that other people aren't having the same shared experiences that I have.
Hmm.
And being a single mom, working a full time job while running two businesses at the same time is overwhelming.
Hmm.
And But I know that I don't have these same thoughts, and I don't have to feel alone in that, and that I need to prioritize my mental component capacity and wellness, to help support myself, be there for my family, and make the most of my job, which I love, of course, but also for myself. How about you?
Yeah. Yeah, such good stuff. I mean, as I said in the beginning, this is definitely not a destination; it's a journey, so to speak, right? And so, I there are many practices that yes, I do, but for me, it was a reminder of the level of consistency that I want to work on for some of those things, and really prioritizing and finding those key practices that really do serve me and really do help me to feel better about me, to feel better about my work, to feel better about my interactions with those with whom I work, and then even things that are outside of my actual job, in believing that I even with my goals around self care that I can start some other things, that I can venture out and to do some other things that are some passions of mine that I don't necessarily have the opportunity to do in my normal work space. So I think that those are some things that have kind of come up for me.
Well, that just made me think about something I am trying to do. So I know that I have all these different goals, and trying to like bring my business up and work a full time job. And so I started this, just to invite small people, like a little Facebook group of work time.
Mhm. Mhm. Let's do it.
That way I can calendar out and I'm not feel like I'm all over the place. And so I wanted to like invite other people who were working in the or aspiring to work in spaces that or areas that I'm trying to grow in as well with time, whether it's planning your social media or just planning your calendar for the week or whatever the
Mhm.
case may be in just those small times. And for me, that makes me feel good to have like a support group.
Yes. Yes. Totally.
But yeah, so that's something I did just for, those late night folk who just want to be up late and working, but still working on
But are still working on getting appropriate sleep. Mm.
but still working on getting appropriate sleep. Yes, yes, but still working on maintaining or trying to get to the goals that I have set for myself and what they have set for themselves outside of the 9 to 5. arena.
Yeah, totally, totally. Well, I we're gonna wrap up, and this is such a good conversation, and I just want to thank the listeners, and I really want to encourage each of you to embrace this journey of self care wherever you are, the very beginning, in the middle. Again, it's not a destination, it's not an end point, but I do think that there are places where we can get to where we feel really comfortable and solid and knowing like this is what I need in order to feel at my best me. Because when it all boils down to it, we're only going to be good for others when we're good to ourselves. And we can't no there's no one else's responsibility, right,
That's
to
right.
to do that but for us.
Thank you for listening to Lead Girl, the BWEL podcast, the premier podcast for Black women in educational leadership. BWEL is a nonprofit organization open for membership for you to serve and be served. If you are a BWEL, we are looking for you. Become a member at www.blackwomeneducationleaders.com and follow us on social media on Twitter, LinkedIn, and Facebook. Stay tuned for the next episode. Until then, be well.